I like to take walks, but I hate taking my purse with me. So I'm usually trying to cram my wallet, phone, keys, and anything else like dog poop bags in various pants or hoodie pockets, and it's just kind of an annoyance. If only there were a way to find the perfect bag, a mini bag, if you will, that would have just enough room for those bare essentials. And the strap would be long enough that it would rest nicely on my hip and not have to be held on my arm or shoulder. Yes, if only. This, my friends, is that bag. Okay, so my goal bag dimensions are 6 inches by 7 inches. You can, as usual, adapt this bag to any size. And I wanted a lot of pockets because I love having a pocket, for example, just for my keys. And then I don't have to go through all the pockets trying to find the frickin' keys at the bottom. The keys are in the key pocket. The phone is in the phone pocket, etc. Again, totally adaptable for your needs. So here I've got my 2 lining pieces. I'm starting with the most simple part of this whole thing first. Slap those 2 lining pieces right sides together and pin around the sides and bottom. And then we're going to sew using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Pretty simple. Once you have the lining assembled, set it aside. Now we'll move on to the strap, or I should say straps. If you want one long strap with no extra doohickeys, you can sew the 2 strap pieces together before this step. But I want a little extra something for this strap, so I'll be assembling the 2 straps separately, even though they will eventually join forces to become one super strap. If you've watched some of my other bag videos, this is your standard double fold strap method. First, you fold it in half lengthwise and press with the iron to mark the center. Then you fold the raw edges into the center line and press again. And finally, folding along the line we originally pressed, we sandwich the raw edges inside, press again, and then we stitch along both edges. You could technically stitch just on the open edge, but for symmetry's sake, I always stitch both. Repeat for the other strap piece and then set the straps aside. Alright, zipper pocket time. Well, zipper pocket number 1. In one of my other videos, the square bottom bag with a zipper tutorial, I demonstrated a welt pocket. I figured I might as well go with a different zipper insert method this time, just for shiggles. Actually, I'm going to do 2 different zipper pockets. The first one is a fairly standard centered zipper. This is one of the most common ways to insert a zipper into, well, almost anything. So here are some of our outer bag pieces. The leopard print is what I'm going to call the outer bag piece, even though it's basically going to get completely covered by the zipper pocket, so it's kind of a lining. This here floral print is the zipper pocket, which you'll note is cut in 2 pieces. It's basically the same size as the outer bag piece with extra seam allowances added for the zipper seam. Take the top piece of the zipper pocket, which is the smaller piece, and line it up right sides together with the bottom zipper pocket piece. That's kind of a tongue twister. Zipper pocket piece, zipper pocket piece. Anyway, pin it to win it, and then we sew using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. We're really only basting this together for now, so if you want to use a longer stitch length, that would serve you well. Open the seam and press with an iron. From the wrong side of the zipper pocket piece, align the zipper. You want the teeth of the zipper lined right up down that seam. As for holding the zipper in place, you can use the glue stick method that I've shown in other videos. You can use pins, or here's another method, tape. You could use scotch tape, painter's tape, masking tape. I maybe would avoid duct tape just because it tends to be on the stickier side, but I'm sure it would work in a pinch. Now we stitch around the zipper. This might sound kooky, but we're going to sew from the right side of the fabric because then we can make sure the stitches are running nicely parallel to the seam line. When you get to the ends of the zipper, it's time to pivot the needle and sew across the zipper tape. Make sure you don't actually sew through the zipper teeth. At best, you'll probably break a needle. At worst, you'll throw your machine out of whack. I speak from experience. Lift the needle and the foot so you can just push past the zipper teeth, and then lower the foot and needle again. When you get to the corner, pivot again and sew up the other side of the zipper. As for keeping the pull out of the way so it doesn't make your stitches wonky, you can actually use an extra long zipper and just have the pull extending way past your fabric, and then you don't have that problem. Now we use ye old seam ripper to open the seam back up, revealing our magnificent centered zip. Booyah. For the purposes of this bag, I've sewn across both ends of the zipper here. If you were inserting this in something else like a skirt or a dress, you probably wouldn't sew the top end. But for a zipper pocket, you can sew both ends shut. Now we're going to sew it to the outer bag piece. Go ahead and pin the pocket to the main bag, wrong side to right side, and baste around all 4 edges using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, for the other outer bag piece, there's another tongue twister. Other outer bag piece, other outer bag piece. More pockets. My outer bag on this side is the blue polka dot, and the pocket is more of the floral print. I don't know if this zipper implementation style has a name. I'm going to call it the zipper-topped pocket. Here you'll note that my pocket piece is a few inches shorter than the outer bag piece. For this zipper pocket, I'm going to pin, or glue stick, or tape, the zipper tape to the top edge of the pocket piece, right sides together. And then I'm going to stitch using a zipper foot. After stitching, press the seam toward the pocket, and then top stitch. Now we'll attach the pocket to the outer bag piece. And if you're winging your measurements, you're going to have to figure out where the right placement for this is. If you're using the same measurements that I gave at the beginning of the video, mark a line 2 inches down from the top of the outer bag piece. That is where we'll align the zipper tape. Pin, glue, or tape, and sew the zipper to the outer bag. Stitch, open the seam, and press the pocket in place. Pin around the sides and bottom of the pocket, and baste using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now you might wonder why we switched to 1/4 inch, and that's because when we sew the bag together, all of this basting stitches of the pockets to the outer bag pieces will be in the seam allowance and we won't even see it. Now, just to get really wacky, I'm going to add yet another pocket. We're going crazy with the pockets. It's a pocket party up in here. This is just a regular pocket, but don't tell the pocket that. It's a little sensitive about not being a zipper pocket. So, for our final pocket, our very special final pocket, we need a pocket outer and pocket lining. Here we go. Polka dot lining, floral outer. Yippee! Right sides together, stitch with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, press the seam open, fold the 2 pieces, wrong sides together, boom. Now we pin to the outer bag, whichever side you prefer. I didn't feel like getting really finicky with the cutting and measuring of the pocket pieces beforehand, so all the pockets are actually the same size. If I leave it where it is, it's going to overlap on the zipper, and I don't want that. So I'm going to eyeball where I want this pocket to go, and then after we baste it to the bag, using a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the sides and bottom, I'll trim off the excess at the bottom, like so. Okay, we better get this bag sewn together before I decide to add like 10 more pockets. Time to decide on strap placement. It's a good idea to keep the seam allowances in mind so you don't inadvertently sew a strap in the way. I decided 1.5 inches from the side was a good spot, and that's where I'll center my strap. These are my 2 D-ring strap loops, by the way. They're about 15 inches or so long, so folded in half over the D-ring minus seam allowances, they'll be about 7 inches. Stitch the end of a D-ring loop strap to each outer bag piece. Then we slide on our D-ring, fold the strap over to create the loop, fold the raw edge under, and pin. And I generally like to double stitch the ends of my straps, like so. If you're attaching a regular strap and skipping the D-ring loops, you can just fold the raw edges under and stitch to the outer bag pieces. And you will want to do that before the next step, even though I'm going to attach the rest of my strap after. So regular strap, attach now. I've pinned my loops out of the way for this step, mostly because it's easier for you to see what I'm doing if they're not flopping around in my way. Outer bag pieces go right sides together, and then, you guessed it, we pin and stitch. And then we're going to sew using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Pretty simple. Just the sides and bottom, of course. Don't stitch the top closed. That would be silly. Find the lining we stitched together way back at step 1. Trim the corners of the outer bag and the lining. Turn the lining right side out. Slip it inside the outer bag so that the right sides are together. Line up the seams on each side and pin. If you need to mark this to remind yourself, then please do so, because we're going to stitch around the top of the bag using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but we will leave a gap of about 3 inches so we can turn the bag out. So we stitch, and then we turn. I always like to take my chopstick to those corners to get them nice and square. and then we can stuff the lining back where it belongs. Now we'll press around the top edge to get the seam looking nice and clean, and of course we need to mind the gap, folding in the raw edges and pressing. Then I'll just pin it to hold it all in place so we can top stitch. Ta-da! All that's left is to finish the strap. Take the main strap, fold it around the D-ring, fold under the raw edge, and pin. Repeat that for both sides, making sure you don't have any twists in the strap. Stitch the strap ends and shablam. Finished bag, with more pockets than you can shake a stick at. Speaking of pockets, I realized that this pocket got turned to the wrong side when I unfolded the bag. I accidentally made it a reversible pocket, so that's fun. And that's it. We're all done. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to click subscribe. And for more tips, tricks, tutorials, and kick-ass sewing patterns, visit whatthecraft.com.